From Neural Newscast, this is Model Behavior, AI-focused news and analysis on the models shaping our world.
I'm Nina Park. Welcome to Model Behavior. Today is June 2nd, 2026. This program examines how AI systems are built, deployed, and operated in professional environments. We look specifically at the technical foundations and the regulatory frameworks that govern them.
I'm Thatcher Collins. Today, we are looking at a day of major regulatory moves and model releases, starting with a significant legal escalation in Florida and a new federal framework for oversight that seeks to balance national security with national innovation.
We begin with the news out of Florida. Earlier today, State Attorney General James Uthmeier filed a civil lawsuit against OpenAI and its CEO, Sam Altman. This follows a criminal investigation launched just last month. According to reports from TechRadar, the state claims ChatGPT was marketed to consumers while OpenAI purportedly deceived the public about the true nature and dangers of the product. The suit includes very specific allegations, connecting the careless introduction of the chatbot to mental health issues, loss of critical thinking, and the aiding of criminals. Thatcher, the most notable part of this filing seems to be the attempt to hold Sam Altman personally liable for these corporate outcomes.
That is exactly what makes this case unusual, Nina. The Florida Attorney General is citing Altman's reckless and willful conduct as a founder. The complaint even references a New Yorker profile from April 2026 that claims Altman has a disregard for the consequences of deception. But we have to look at the feasibility here. Can a state realistically hold a CEO personally accountable for the societal side effects of a generative tool? OpenAI's existing safety page already outlines how they align models with human values, and they've been doing this since the explosion of ChatGPT 4 years ago. The state's claims about aiding and abetting criminal acts seem like a very high bar to prove in a civil court.
Uthmeier's argument is that the success of the company was not earned, but rather built on a web of deceit. The suit specifically mentions that minors became addicted to the tool and that professionals suffered public humiliation through hallucinations. While OpenAI has not issued a formal response to this specific civil filing yet, they have historically pointed to their extensive safety evaluations and system-level guardrails. However, the Florida Attorney General argues these tools did not exist when the product first scaled, leaving a gap of accountability that they are now trying to fill retrospectively. They claim the company prioritized growth over the safety of the users.
And that retrospective angle is where I find some friction in the logic, Nina. We are talking about a technology that evolved faster than anyone, including its creators, expected. Blaming OpenAI for a lack of safety standards in 2022 and 2023, when the entire industry was still defining what an AI safety standard looked like, is a tough legal sell. It is like blaming the first car manufacturers for not having 3-color traffic lights. As noted in some of our source material today, those signals did not arrive until years after the automobile was already on the streets. It feels like this lawsuit is trying to treat a systemic societal shift as a specific corporate crime.
It is a tension we see often, the pace of innovation versus the pace of litigation. Moving from the courtroom to the development lab, Microsoft had a massive day at its Build 2026 conference. The Verge is reporting that Microsoft has launched its first advanced reasoning model developed entirely in-house, called MAI Thinking 1. This is a significant pivot. For years, Microsoft relied almost exclusively on OpenAI's models, but they recently renegotiated their deal to allow for more independence. This move suggests Microsoft is ready to control its own technological destiny, rather than relying on a partnership that is increasingly complicated by legal and regulatory scrutiny.
This really changes the dynamic of the Microsoft-OpenAI partnership. MAI Thinking 1 is described as a medium-sized model that reportedly matches leading flagship models on software engineering benchmarks. Microsoft is stressing that they trained this from the ground up on clean data, specifically avoiding distillation from third-party models. Nina, does this mean Microsoft is becoming a direct competitor to the very company they have invested billions in? It seems they are building an internal alternative to GPT-5 or whatever comes next. If they can offer a similar level of reasoning at a lower cost, it puts huge pressure on OpenAI to justify its own enterprise pricing.
It certainly looks like they are hedging their bets, Thatcher. Along with MAI Thinking 1, they announced 6 other models today, covering everything from transcription to image editing. MAI Transcribe 1.5 is reportedly 5 times faster than its competitors. They're also integrating a new coding model, MAI Code 1 Flash, directly into GitHub Copilot. This isn't just one model. It is an entire ecosystem of in-house silicon and software that reduces their reliance on external APIs. This integration allows for a much tighter feedback loop between the hardware and the software, potentially leading to the kind of efficiency gains that general-purpose models simply cannot achieve.
But we should be careful with the advanced reasoning label. We've seen other reasoning models before, and they often come with a high latency cost. Microsoft claims this one matches leading benchmarks, but we need to see how it performs in real-world enterprise environments, where reliability is more important than a synthetic score. It is also interesting to note that they are targeting the medium-sized market, which suggests they are going for efficiency over raw parameter count. In an era where data center costs are spiraling, a smaller, smarter model that runs efficiently on Microsoft's own Cobalt chips could be the definitive competitive edge in the enterprise market. The efficiency theme continued with another major announcement, WebIQ. CNET reports that Microsoft has built a suite of APIs specifically designed for AI agents. Instead of a search engine for humans, like Bing, WebIQ is a search engine for bots. It delivers search results in a condensed, token-efficient format that allows AI agents to ground their responses in real-time data without inflating the cost of the query. This is a fundamental change in how the internet is indexed and accessed, prioritizing machine readability over human visual layout and advertisement placement. This is a critical infrastructure move, Nina. If most online searches are eventually going to be done by agents rather than people, which Microsoft predicts will happen soon, then the architecture of the web has to change. WebIQ is supposedly 2.5 times faster than current solutions, with a response time of under 165 milliseconds. My question is, how does this affect the open web? If agents are scraping and summarizing via these APIs, do the original content creators see any of that traffic? This seems to push us further toward a headless internet, where data is just a commodity for models rather than a destination for people.
That leads us directly into the federal response to these very same frontier capabilities. This morning, President Donald Trump signed a new executive order regarding AI oversight and national security. According to the Associated Press, the order establishes a framework for the federal government to vet the most advanced AI models for up to 30 days before they are released to the public. Thatcher, this order was actually delayed from last month because the president was concerned it might slow down American innovation or give an advantage to international competitors in the race for digital supremacy.
Yes, it is a very delicate balance. The president was clear that he did not want to hand an advantage to China. To address that, the final version of the order is strictly voluntary. It asks companies like Google, Anthropic, and OpenAI to collaborate with the government to assess advanced cyber capabilities. If a model can find vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure, the government wants a 30-day head start to patch those holes before the model goes wide. But Nina, if it is voluntary, does it actually have any teeth? Or is it just a way for the administration to say they are doing something without actually imposing new regulations?
The administration is framing it as a common-sense partnership rather than a mandatory licensing regime. The order explicitly bars the government from creating pre-clearance requirements or permits. However, it gives the director of the National Security Agency significant discretion in deciding which models qualify for scrutiny. As NBC News reports, this follows the release of Anthropic's Mythos preview model, which apparently showed a superhuman ability to find flaws in software. The Treasury and the NSA are clearly worried about what happens when a model like that falls into the wrong hands, Thatcher, and they want the ability to monitor these capabilities in real time.
That Mythos model really seems to be the catalyst here, Nina. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Vice President J.D. Vance have been increasingly vocal about governing the spread of AI to protect the economy and national stability. But there is a political friction here, too. The order directs the Attorney General to prioritize prosecuting crimes involving AI agents. It is a shift from regulating the math to regulating the act. I wonder if a 30-day window is even enough for the government to secure critical infrastructure against a model that can think faster than their human analysts. It feels like they are trying to apply a traditional timeline to a non-traditional technological risk.
That is the central concern. Critics, like those cited from the Cato Institute, worry about giving the NSA too much discretion, calling it a dangerous precedent that could be weaponized against specific companies. This is especially relevant given that Anthropic is currently in a legal battle with the administration over a Pentagon contract dispute. Despite that, OpenAI has already called the executive order an important step for accountability. They seem eager to position themselves as the responsible partner in this dynamic. Thatcher, it appears the industry is split on whether this is helpful oversight or a form of soft censorship.
It is a complicated dance between Washington and Silicon Valley. While the government tries to wrap its head around the risks, OpenAI is pushing ahead with product integration. Today, 9to5Mac confirmed that OpenAI is putting its Codex engine directly into the ChatGPT app and releasing 6 new business-focused plugins. They are trying to move Codex from a developer tool to a general productivity tool for everyone. By making high-level coding logic available through a simple interface, they are effectively turning every employee into a potential software architect, which could fundamentally change the nature of technical work.
The new plugins are highly specialized. Sales, data analytics, creative production, product design, and even investment banking. The goal is to allow ChatGPT to not just write about a task, but to use these agentic plugins to actually perform the work in tools like Salesforce, Tableau, or Figma. They also introduced a Sites feature, where Codex can turn a text-based plan into a fully hosted interactive dashboard or app instantly. This move toward action-oriented AI suggests that the time spent on manual software configuration and dashboard building may be coming to an end for many professionals.
The Sites feature is particularly interesting because it turns the large language model into a UI builder. But again, Nina, we see this recurring theme, the agent taking action. OpenAI is clearly trying to ensure that ChatGPT remains the primary interface for business, especially as Microsoft builds its own competing MI models. It feels like the era of the chatbot is officially over, and we are now in the era of the autonomous workspace. The challenge for these companies now is not just generating text, but ensuring that these autonomous actions are safe, reversible, and fully auditable by the human supervisors.
And the financial markets are reacting accordingly to this massive shift in utility. Yesterday, June 1st, Anthropic confidentially filed for an IPO. Reports from CNBC and Medium indicate the company is carrying a valuation of $965 billion. This comes after a massive $65 billion funding round and a staggering revenue jump from $9 billion at the end of last year to $47 billion by May 2026. OpenAI is reportedly right behind them with its own confidential S-1 filing, also targeting a valuation north of $1 trillion. These numbers represent an almost unprecedented acceleration in enterprise value.
Those numbers are almost hard to process, Nina. To go from $9 billion to $47 billion in revenue in less than 6 months is unprecedented in the history of enterprise software. It shows that over 1,000 enterprise clients are now spending more than $1 million a year on Claude. This IPO filing isn't just a fundraising event. It is a structural shift. Anthropic is moving from a high-growth research lab to an institutional infrastructure provider. My question is, how does this change their relationship with the companies building on their models? Public market scrutiny often changes the priorities of even the most mission-driven companies.
It means the vendor risk models have to change, Thatcher. Public companies face quarterly earnings pressure and margin scrutiny. If you are a chief information officer and your entire compliance or customer service stack is built on Claude, you now have to worry about whether a public Anthropic will raise token prices to satisfy shareholders. The grow-at-all-costs phase is ending, and the institutional rigor phase is beginning. This transition will require these companies to prove that their massive valuations are supported by sustainable, long-term business models, rather than just the promise of future breakthroughs.
It also signals that the market sees the real value in orchestration. We are no longer talking about who has the best chatbot, but who powers the most effective agents. As the source material mentions, the race to $1 trillion isn't just about who is the smartest, but who becomes the cognitive engine for the next decade of software. With SpaceX also looking to debut next week, 2026 is shaping up to be the year AI infrastructure goes public. It is a pivotal moment for the industry, as these technologies move from the lab to the core of the global financial system.
Thank you for listening to Model Behavior, a Neural Newscast editorial segment. mb.neuralnewscast.com. Neural Newscast is AI-assisted, human-reviewed. View our AI transparency policy at neuralnewscast.com.
This has been Model Behavior on Neural Newscast, examining the systems behind the story